Hey everyone, welcome back to Out of Band, a Microsoft security podcast. I'm Andrew Young, a modern work specialist and security MVP in Intune.
Hi, I'm Shehan. I'm Microsoft MVP in security. How are you?
And I'm Anthony Porter, Cloud Security Architect at Canon Business Services, specializing in the Intune and Defender space.
Times. Well, it's almost been a month actually since our last episode, and we had Anthony over in Adelaide he's obviously had to come around for some work, but we did kidnap him for some other ulterior motives. So we had him come along to our user group, and yeah, we had our guest speaker session with Matt Clark. He was also based in Adelaide, so we recorded the last episode in his office over at Essentia. But yeah, since that, what else has been happening for you, Anthony? Because I don't think we've spoken much
Yeah,
since that.
to be honest, it's been pretty flat out. Yeah, I mean, I guess as an update, the Perth Microsoft Security Meetup group, I've taken on, I guess, co-organizership of that space. So yeah, looking forward to also joining the user groups for Perth in regards to the organization of that side of things. I'm sure you
Yeah,
guys are all too familiar with that space.
first day of the rest of your life.
Yeah, look, well, technically, so yeah, technically from when we're filming like this right now, next Tuesday is our first session, in which I'm part of the organizing. So, yeah, looking forward to that. It's about, trusting creation logs related to, I guess, attacks and vulnerabilities and whatnot. So, yeah, real technical deep dive in that space, not necessarily Microsoft related, which yeah, no, it's more, getting on the tools and figuring out the back end of it. But no, I guess apart from that, I also had one of my presentations where I discussed, I guess, the toolset of Microsoft 365 DSC, I guess with a very security flavor. And I believe I'll be having that same discussion with your, friendly user group over in Adelaide in August, I believe.
Yeah, we'll pencil it in for August, but we'll see what happens.
Look,
Hopefully in person.
yeah, look. I definitely hope. I
Hope
do
you do see
believe. I think just the flow of questions is a lot. It's a lot better in person. I think people are more open to asking questions when it's in person because, and
Yeah.
quite often or not, the questions will come after the session where they're like, "All right, I got to spare 1 minute."
Mm.
Where, I mean, to be completely honest, and I guess this is like as a public service announcement, is if you have a question, it's probably a question that's on a lot of other people's minds. So speak up because you're probably gonna ask the question that somebody else is gonna ask, and it's probably gonna inspire them to be like, "Oh, I could have asked that." And I think these user groups really are like people centric, people focused, and yeah, that interaction is almost a measure of success. I'd say so.
Mm.
Um,
I mean, yeah, there's no excuse not to ask questions, even if you can't think of any, because now you've got generative AI to help you come up with questions. Plug in topic. What's a good question I can ask to derail the the speaker, right?
Do not derail
Um,
any of my please. I already have mental inside of my own head games. I don't need to be derailed through you two being like, hey, let's just completely left field. It's like so M365 DSC, just a random off the cuff, is based off of the PowerShell DSC 2. And PowerShell DSC 3 just came out, and so like I had one side question. It's like, so do you reckon they're going to update it? So why are you asking me these things? Like, go and ask the GitHub, like the public repo that is a community-driven project, if they're going to update. I'm just an end user that's trying to show people of capability of a tool set that's free. And they're like, what about DSC 3? Come on, it's like, come on now, like what I'm just here to try and help, man. I'm not.
yeah,
I was like, hey, you can go and ask that question, or better yet, you're a community. You go and fix it. You go and upgrade it. It's the same
yeah, good
thing as
good times. For
yeah,
those
yeah.
playing at home, DSC is desired state configuration. Yes,
It's,
we'll do the animation afterwards.
oh right, yeah, it's just a big segment. Yeah, just need subtitles of whatever the next abbreviation is going to be in this space. Like we don't already have too many. I guess
Just a few.
yeah. But yeah. But no, apart from that, it was absolutely like thoroughly enjoyable to once again be able to fly over to Adelaide and catch up with you two. Also, just absolutely immaculate timing in regards to us having Matt in the same room as us, and then being able to
Mm.
walk down the street to his office to then film the podcast. And I thought that was I think to Matt's comment via LinkedIn, is that if we just continued filming during our dinner, like there would have been an episode 2 and an episode
Oh
3
yeah,
off of that, like
would have been a lot
easily.
of redactions, but yeah.
Hey.
Really.
uh, no,
The unplug sessions are the best.
unplugged.
So.
Yeah. Segue to our new pod. No.
Oi.
Segue to our new podcast. No. But no, I think you put a lot of brainy, like-minded individuals in a room, and the
A
pain
little bit of
points
wine
come
and
out.
yeah.
Not for Matt. Diet
No,
Coke, I believe.
no. He's done good. It's been I think it's 3, 4. I don't know. It's been many years since
No,
he gave up the drop, which is all the best to him. But
all the
yeah,
problem. I think it
yeah,
was your point system, right? It was, hey, I get points on this bottle, and we're like, why not?
yeah,
Enough of that. But
yeah,
no, it was absolutely a great opportunity to meet a fresh face in the area that's actually doing amazing work in the community.
Mm.
And if our platform and our reach can help him, I believe that is going to be a real forward approach for the community. I guess for those that didn't watch the episode, Matt has written a book in which that book is free to download if you subscribe to his newsletter. And that book is essentially focused around, the easy aspects of securing your, I guess, identity and your, your security platforms, the standards of MFA and passwords and whatnot. And then also we touched on the tool set that he created, which is regarding email aliases. So he essentially created a platform in which you could register and have your emails go through a genericized domain, happens to be his Secure in Seconds, where it allows you to essentially alias domains to kind of find where your weak points are. So through the mass use of the same domain, and the obscurity of that, it allows for a bit more anonymization for yourself, which once again, an amazing initiative. And once again, the free book, it's massive. It's like a really solid book. I believe it should be in the school system. I think we even discussed that space is where a lot of these things are kind of tested, and not even tested where they should be tested, where in school systems they say create one password. That's not really how we should be rolling. And that book kind of touches on all of that.
Yeah, and it's available physical copy as well. You just have to pay for the shipping and printing fees. That's all. He's not making any money off of it. The book's called Secure. Like, there's an acronym again, but practical cybersecurity. Tech skills needed. So yeah, if you check out the website, so secureinseconds.com.
We can make sure it's all in the descriptions and whatnot down the bottom. We'll just keep plugging Matt. Honestly, he's done a wicked job.
Mutually beneficial. If we promote his content, he'll promote ours. So it is, it is the same
I believe
pool of.
I believe you run an AI tool over our session, and for like the whole month, every day, I was like, "Oh, there's my face again. Oh, there's me saying something stupid again." That's like, no, it was.
So it enhanced our audio, and then it also did frame capturing based on who was talking. So a lot of the videos, I wasn't saying anything in those particular sections. So it became a 3-person panel instead of a 4-person panel. So it was a bit, okay.
Nah, look.
And premature hitting of the post button on his behalf. So we belted with all these posts one after another, and even before our pod went live. So
look, no, it's good. I'm glad that
sneak peek.
he was eager, and I think this is I guess speaking on behalf of all of us, is that's the kind of platform that not only do we want to talk about Microsoft and security and what's pressing, but we also I guess using a platform like this want to be able to identify and highlight community advocates that are actually doing a really good job in this space, because it's a team effort in the end. So Yes, definitely jumped the gun on it, Matt. Please don't do that again in future because I believe Shehan worked some pretty hard hours on getting that edited and up to date, and published. But once again, yeah, it was great to have Matt on board.
Yeah, certainly.
Um, I'd say, Andrew, what's new in Entra?
Intro. Stuff. So May had a lot going on besides us, aligning planets for ourselves. You had your user group, and it was also Microsoft Build, so the developer conference in Seattle. So as you can imagine, it's all AI and Copilot and agents and whatever was the main topic, but it's all the integrated and related technologies. So Entra being one of the main things because it's all the identities, but it's also all the applications. So in saying that, the agents that we create now with Microsoft Copilot Studio, each time you create one, there's a entry created in the enterprise application space. So as soon as you hit publish, it'll create it'll enroll and there'll be an enterprise application there, but it will then have an identity you can use. So that identity can then be used in, say, a conditional access policy. So when that agent needs to access a certain bit of content, say from SharePoint or another repository somewhere, it will then need to be attested through the conditional access policy. So everything is zero trust. So not only is the user who's using the agent protected, but the agent itself in its interactions, its actions, and so on, that's also protected as well. I can do a quick screen share if you
Yeah.
like. Oh,
A little bit of movie magic in the background.
absolutely, because I don't know where the application thing's going. This is the problem of switching devices on yourself.
Look, new laptop. Everything's in a different spot, even though it's the same experience every time.
Yeah, I assume this will.
There you
Yeah, yeah, easy as.
I don't know what you're saying.
About to find out. It's gonna be real awkward. Nah. uh, I mean, it's still loading on my end, so.
go.
I've just got a big screen that just says. I've got a background echo too.
I'll try again.
Looking good now.
We good?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
good.
All right, cool. You guys are all faded out. It looks funny. Assume you're just looking at my tab here. So this is the Entra
Absolutely.
Admin Center in the enterprise applications. And as you can see here, there's an agent I created with Copilot Studio. And after creating it, there's now identifiers, application IDs, object IDs, and so on. And the way to be able to see this is you have to go to the application type filter and drop it down to agent ID, which is in preview at the moment. So if you've got agents in the mix and you want to be able to secure what they can access and do, have a look in your Entra Admin
So
Center here.
I guess just asking that only because I haven't played too much in that space. I believe I saw you posting about it early stage when you were testing and making this, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, brilliant. And I was going to learn through you. So obviously you can assign it to conditional access in regards to access management and all that. If you select that, what else can you play with? Can you play with, enterprise applications? You can play with APIs. You can play with what access it has into the environment, and so on and so forth. What is it just acting as if it was a standard enterprise application? Like, if you were to click permissions, I'm not sure what you've done in the enterprise application
I've
itself, the app
not
itself.
touched this at all. So this
Yeah.
this is as is when it gets generated by Entra automatically when you publish that agent. So we won't see anything here because well, essentially we don't have to set anything
Yeah.
because it's part of the connection when you create the agent itself. And I haven't yet created a connection access policy that targets it. That was going to be the next thing I do, but I'll get to that
No,
eventually
no.
as part of testing. But I just thought it was check here because it's a new thing, but also because I needed to create an agent at some point to
Yeah.
take screenshots and all the
Oh,
you
look,
know,
as I said,
documentation side of things. But
I,
yeah, it's
I
we can do
think
it right now. I've got no idea. I haven't.
I mean, it automatically will select the resource associated to the application or the resource.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
So
there's the agent here, so it's targeting that agent, and then you can do based on users, based on these conditions, which is the usual lot. Nothing out of the ordinary. Um, yeah,
yeah. No, I said I
it's
think.
probably for auditing as well. We got at least something to track certain actions with, because before you couldn't, right? So you had agents doing whatever. It was going to be near impossible to figure out. Yeah, was it the agent doing it or was it a user doing it? Because there was nothing to attribute to the logged action.
Well, I mean, thinking longer term, the reflection of a Copilot Studio agent against an enterprise application then means that when a user interacts with the agent, that should show up in the activity logs. No different to if a user was to, sign into Outlook or log into the Azure portal, it would now be able to reflect actions against an enterprise application, which happens to be now an agent AI, like an agent within Copilot Studio. So I guess I guess talking more on the topic across the board of visibility. I think that's where I guess May, I believe, has really kicked in regards to the
It's in the
visibility.
image.
Yeah, see visibility. Yeah, as I said, I think across the board within Defender, within Defender for Cloud, Defender XDR, Intune, yeah, and obviously Entra. I believe visibility is kind of one of those things that's really starting to be prominent within the May updates, and yeah, I mean it's really good to see.
Yeah, we'll drop the link to the blog in the notes as well, but just getting a bit more information around what else it can do. Yeah,
Oh, brilliant. I'll throw it back to us. Yes. But yeah, no, I think that that's one of those things where yeah, it's starting to look at a bit more accountability, visibility in an environment. Shehan, Intune space. What's happening over there?
Yeah, so we all know about the multiple administrator approvals or MAAs. If I'm correct, so that's a Intune suite sort of a feature. So MAAs already got the scripts and for apps. So there should be multiple admins that should approve the stuff. Like edit, create, or delete, that sort of operations for apps and scripts. So that was the previous story, but now they have added the access policies as well. So access policies are basically applies to create and managing multiple admin approval policies. So it's basically MAAs over those policies, policy creations. So it can be creation, editing, or deletion. So that's really good because usually those access policies can be created by an Intune service administrator or by a Azure Global Administrator. So having multiple approval levels for creating policies, that's actually a good move towards securing those policies as you're securing your apps and scripts. I would like to see um, more features coming into the MAA. So creating objects, creating config policies, or maybe creating security policies, baseline policies, so anyone can easily change those stuff. So if that can be approved by another administrator, that would be really nice to see as well. So, but at the moment, apps, scripts, and access policies are available for MAAs. Yeah.
I think that's once again one of those value adds to the space of I guess aligning to, let's say, change management, where you'd have
Yeah,
multiple
correct.
lines of
Yeah, so
approval.
proper change management, proper levels, and also uh, it adds, because now everything is moving to Intune, like it or not. So stuff that was in SCCM, GPO, so more and more stuff coming into Intune. So having that management layers would be really good, because there will be more and more administrators jumping into Intune in an organization do the stuff. So there will be some logging approvals behind the scenes. So that's really good.
Yeah, and I think moving forward, it's probably the direction that a lot of physical, or at least like large critical like configuration changes should probably align to. It
Yeah.
makes sense that endpoint management and configuration within that space, be it applications or scripts, is
Correct.
where it starts. But I think moving forward, it would be great to see that in any sort of large scale configuration changes. And I mean, even in regards to, let's say, call it Azure, like resource changes and configuration changes within that space, where
Yeah.
yes, you have PIMs to approve to be able to then act on those changes and so on. But yeah, at a more granular level, being able to have more visibility on the changes that are being made, so that, you know, for example, sake, if you were going through a standard ITIL change request,
Yeah.
that there was a bit more visibility as to what was being changed. The approval lines could align to your external ITIL framework change request
Yeah.
process. Yeah, it's once again, it's really good to see that. Yeah, there's real initiative towards what a business is doing, and not kind of just what aligned to Microsoft back when they put it together.
Yeah. And also something that really would nice to have in the future, these sort of approval levels for bulk actions in Intune. So at the moment, you can just create a bulk action, do a wipe, delete, or those sort of critical actions, I would say. So if those actions can go through at least another level, so that can be audited as well. It's audited, but in the logs anyway. But that can be approved by another person. So another set of eyeballing into the action before it actually executes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think even on a level of look, I'm sure some employees would like to think all of their employees are happy, but employers says all their employees are happy. But even if you just get one disgruntled, that they could
Yeah.
just wipe. Like you got Intune admin, you got wipe, and that's scary, right? Once again, it's one of those functions within a space where you'll be using Intune admin day to day, but they're having a bad day. Anything that I believe in endpoint management specifically, or at this stage, Azure resource deletion is type in the Azure resource name, it's gone. I think obviously there's locks in place and all that. Like I understand that, like you can resource lock and so on. But I believe, yeah, if they expand on approvals for critical actions, I think that would
Yeah.
it'd be a good quality of life update in that space. But yeah, as I said, it's good to see that.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's improving, which is good. Yeah. So yeah, I believe probably a lot more to come in that space in the future, hopefully.
I want to talk on, I guess, Defender for Cloud has seen a lot of, I guess, things go GA this month. I'm talking this month as in May, obviously, not the start of June, which we may be recording right now. But I guess more in regards to, once again, the visibility almost. GA for Defender for AI Services went live. There was also the GA for Security Copilot in Defender for Cloud went GA. So once again, it's that, where AI and security AI can help within the Defender for Cloud space. One of the changes to the Defender CSPM, now billing Azure databases and so on and so forth, but probably one of the ones I wanted to highlight was the GA for Data and AI Security Dashboard. Once again, bashing that same old really good improvements in regards to the visibility space. The Data and AI Security Dashboard touches on things like giving you a view of your organization's data and AI resources, which then allows you to look at your AI application footprint, such as what services are included or what containers are included in those, or what data sets and models are trained for those specific. Obviously, with that same flavor of Defender for Cloud, which it looks at protection over your resources, so it assigns specific protection coverage over data and AI resources. So, no different to like Azure virtual machines getting Defender for a server. It gives you that Defender layer on top of, which once again, if you're not aware as to what Defender for Cloud can do, it also gives you, insights into what is happening in that space. It gives you sensitive data discovery, which looks at the summarization of sensitive data, which could be going in and out of your AI assets, but then also gives you recommendations and actionable based insights into severities where it might be one of your AI agents has a vulnerability within it. So once again, giving you not only visibility but actionability over the AI space and the data, which I think 2025 is the rise of data security requirements, and that's due to the rise of the use of AI in organizations. One of the probably my favorite update for May is within the Defender XDR space, or specifically the Defender for Endpoint space, which is in regards to the Defender for Endpoint effective settings. This is something that I've consistently kind of talked about, I guess, in my past, endeavors for, how can we provide more visibility in the endpoint space, specifically around the security policies. And once again, May's swung around, and they've really, swung the requirement hammer for that space. And yeah, obviously, Defender for Endpoints, security policies, and the tab for effective settings has come through. What I can do is share my screen and show a couple of genericized. Let me see if I can do all this my end of things. Jeez. That is extremely. It looks fine on my end. I'm sure it'll be fine. Yeah, look, so once again, the configuration management of security policies, and then what that security policy looks like in its effective setting. So there's two functions to this. The idea is that it looks at what the effective setting within an environment is. So, obviously this example here is the Defender AV, where it starts to look at functions like allow archive scanning, allow behavior monitoring, allow cloud protection, so on. It shows the policy type, which obviously if you start looking in, let's say, the Intune space, obviously it's going to explain it's a Defender AV policy. It will then look at the effective setting. So that looks at a snapshot of what is configured for that. Now, what it then allows you to do is look at, and probably more specifically, is that configured by section. Now that gives you that visibility of, so I guess, taking it back a couple of steps, is you have multiple areas where you can configure certain things. If you're running a large scale enterprise operation, you can have group policy, or you can have configuration manager, or you can have Intune, or you can have Defender. All of those are places where you can implement and enforce AV based settings. Now, what that is for a specific device and where that's being enforced through is kind of a bit of that blurred hope for the best, where you don't really know. So you probably just set up the same group policy as you would an Intune policy, and you'd set the same thing up in SCCM, and you'd push it to all the devices and hope that they all aligned. This kind of allows for you to granularly look at the configuration itself and see what is the effective value and where is that configured by. One of the other areas that I want to touch on is it also shows, I guess more specifically, in regards to, for example, the effective values, it'll also show you where each of these effective values can come from. So once again, if you have one value, let's say once again it's going to be looking at the low CPU priority, where the effective value is disabled. If you have multiple policies set up where, once again, one's being pushed through group policy, one's being pushed through Intune, one's being pushed through Defender, you can have it show where those values are coming from and when was the last time that was reported. Once again, it can give you that insight as to kind of, where is your conflicting policies, and where are those policies even being enforced for that endpoint or device. I guess.
I think, yeah, so, sorry to jumping in here. I think that's really good for large organizations where they have all the tools in place, coming from GPOs, obviously SCCM, security configuration policies, and then they got Intune, probably co-managed, and then, everything is coming into the device, right? So, and also, even within the Defender, you see the same setting in few different places. It can be the baseline policy. Again, the Defender policies are in the AB policies, and the ASR policies are in the baseline policies again. So there can be stuff coming from everywhere. So I think this is a really good way forward to understand what's the actual effective policy coming from, and if there's conflict and what needs to be done. So rather than just going through the devices or using KQL to understand the device, where the policy is coming from and stuff like that, this would be really good. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think in the past it's genuinely been like a needle in a haystack when it comes to like mass management across enterprises. Where like I genuinely believe Microsoft's hit the nail on the head when it comes to the fix for that, at least in regards to security policies. I think, administrators have already got it kind of hard in some of these spaces where you need to quickly pinpoint and resolve like configuration issues or conflicts to configuration issues, where in the past, I guess from like an Intune's perspective, it was kind of what's taking over what's in place, where once again obviously very focused on the security policies. I do hope that it does evolve moving forward, but at least this provides you that insight into where is this setting being enforced through, what is the effective setting, when was this last checked in to get that effective setting. Once again, the visibility that this provides, especially in the security space, this is kind of one of those like no compromises allowed. You kind of need to make sure that some of these Defender AVs remain the effective value that you insist it is, always. Let's say, one of the very obvious behavior monitoring being on, like, please turn on real-time behavior monitoring. That's one of those like almost non-negotiables that almost always needs to be turned on. Obviously you can see in this example it is tamper protection, so once again, good luck trying to get past that. That's kind of one of those good luckers, but obviously there's other values that are not enforced through tamper protection, which it looks at, some of them being default, some of them being enforced through local administrator. Once again, it gives you a bit more of a breakdown as to where that is in place. But yeah, once again, it's a really good, I guess, focus point to fixing. I guess not to almost, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, but I guess not to, I guess, retoot the old horn, but I built a bunch of remediation scripts way back in 2024, late 2024, which kind of identified the gap where it was difficult to ensure that your configuration remained your configuration. And so, I built a bunch of scripts which leveraged the remediations function within Intune, where it said, if this value has changed, please reset and place this value back in. So once again, I think it almost complements something like this, where your effective setting could be reinforced, but obviously with the push for the, in Windows 11 and the configuration, reapply being a lot more frequent. Once again, I think moving to a more up-to-date, visible security policy, I guess, metric is something desirable. And I think, yeah, a good approach to, I genuinely hope that this gets adopted across the rest of, for example, Intune, where at this stage it's kind of, where is the enforcement from, who's taken priority. Obviously there's that whole MDM wins over GPO approach, but does it really? Like there's no way of really confirming. It's kind of hope for the best.
Yeah, kind of that RSOP, but for Intune resulting policies. Yeah.
I mean, I think to Shehan's point is that the progression towards moving group policy and SCCM, like config managers functionality, that RSOP is one of those core functions of group policy. It can give you that report of, what's happening. I'd love to see that progress into the Intune space.
Yeah, for sure.
You mentioned your remediation scripts. I think it's might be a good time to segue and plug.
Yeah,
I did want to talk on some purview stuff, but you already kind of fed me that. So.
Yeah, no. No, I guess, yeah. From I guess a personal development is my existing website. I now brought a domain, which is one of those I guess almost rebrands associated. So prior it was just antoporter.github.io, which was the genericized GitHub Pages domain URL. Obviously, I've put some trickery in, and I've done some reroutes, and had to refresh the old knowledge base on how to use DNS, but I got that all under control. But no, securing M365 was available. And you know what? I had probably one or two little beers and went, you know what? That sounds good to me. So yeah, securing M365 was purchased. I then looked towards creating a bit of a LinkedIn page, because I realized that some people want to follow me, some people want to follow my content. So I've split those two, where unfortunately I'll probably still share the content in which I have on that page, but the idea is that I'll probably eventually wean off and have a personal associated to what I'm doing for work, and then obviously refrain from sharing in that space unless it's something I'm really, really proud of or so. But yeah, securing m365.com. Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily think we need to have some sort of weird banner come up, but yeah,
It already has.
yeah, right. Look at that. Thanks, Shehan. But no, securing M365. And yeah, once again, all my existing articles, all my existing content, all my existing repositories, such as Intune remediations, all still point to and will point to now securing M365. So yeah, thank you for the wicked segue. I'll push it back to you in regards to Purview, because less on that, more on that.
Yeah, well, it's just as important, and I think we've covered the other main security pillars so far. But yeah, in May, Purview got some announcements and GAs and stuff as well. I think one of the main ones we'd seen was data security posture management, so DSPM. Just DSPM, not DSPM for AI, which is a different beast altogether. So the one for AI is looking at insights, policies, and controlling AI apps, whereas DSPM by itself, that's more looking at your data repositories holistically. So you've even got multi-cloud platforms coming in here, other generative AI applications, not necessarily Copilot, but yeah, that's now available if you've got the premium licensing, so E5 compliance or M365 E5. It's going to be there in your Microsoft Purview portal. And yeah, it integrates with all the Purview solutions, so DLP, information protection, insider risk management, and so on. Yeah, I mean, I haven't really looked into it too much, but it is now generally available. At the same time, in the rest of Purview, that they've got options now where you can tap into pay-as-you-go billing. So creating an Azure subscription and saying, "Hey, I'm not going to use X service every day all the time, so let's just get charged when we actually do a specific investigation," for example. So some of the features that have pay-as-you billing available now would be, say, under audit, where they can look for certain Copilot data. There is communication compliance, so you can kind of look or target generative AI interactions, and in data life. Sorry, I'll come back to data lifecycle management. Sorry, it's e-discovery. So the pay-as-you-go for any data storage of non-M365 AI data in any of the e-discovery cases. So it's very very niche on that one. Insider risk management has one as well, and that's obviously to support generative AI related indicators. So
I was going to say, in regards to the e-discovery for non-M365, I think it kind of makes sense, right? I think, I guess from a perspective of indexing of information and the ingestion of external into obviously comes with a cost associated. So it makes sense that if you were going to pay G, that is not a free, because technically to get data into your environment, let's say, using the information protection scanner so you can get your on-prem in, all of that obviously incurs a cost because there's a scanner involved, and I'm sure there's probably compute involved if you have your on-prem actually be Azure and so on and so forth. But I think it makes sense that that isn't, I guess, free. And to be completely honest, it looks probably more towards the, if you want it to be, cheaper or free, why don't you just move it into somewhere like SharePoint? I'm sure if you're playing with that functionality, you probably have some decent licensing and probably the consumption bandwidth in SharePoint. Who knows?
Probably more concerned about the storage usage there, but that's a whole
Ah,
other thing.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, it's probably more of a preview kind of talk, but there's a couple of things in preview. So data lifecycle management, the retention policy location. So I think in the past it was, hey, anything to do with Copilot, that's the user. It goes in their mailbox. So there's your Teams conversations and all that stuff as well. So they've expanded support for Copilot and AI apps as a retention policy location. So Teams chats have been separated from your M365 Copilot interactions with a location just for Teams chat. So there's going to be a bit of playing around with your retention policies to either separate them or merge them or whichever direction you're going. But yes, that's something to look out for as well. They're also including the Teams facilitator agent features. So that's going to have again another location. So it's going to be in Teams, but it is being retained. So that agent does its own things in a meeting. So those AI generated notes, for example, they'll need to be included as part of data management. Yeah. And yeah, the other thing I think we've mentioned in a previous episode, the security copilot agents, they're all in preview now. So if you are lucky enough to be playing with Security Copilot, take a look at the agents because
I was
they'll be available in those embedded experiences across, you know, Intune, Entra,
literally
Purview.
going to say, speaking of agents and bring it up, yeah, the two being researcher, which helps you tackle like multi-step research for work, and then obviously there's the analyst, which helps you. It refers to itself as the skilled data scientist, which allows you to go from raw data to like insights. So once again, it's kind of bridging the gap between looking at business analyst or chain of thoughts or reasoning of information into factual insights into obviously looking at that, how can we assist an analyst or a data scientist in that space. Obviously this is that bot
Mm.
for it, and then the researcher once again helping that space where combining deep research models and orchestration of deep search capabilities to be able to then quickly assess information across the board.
We just broke through the modern work here. So M365 Copilot, if you've got a license or you are a licensed user, you should now see those two agents. They became generally available 2 days ago as of when we're recording, so maybe a week ago when this goes live. So start of June. So researcher based on the deep research model and analyst based on the O3 mini, or it's one of the
Yeah, it was
reasoning
O3 Mini, I'm
models.
pretty
Yes.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so they were part of what is known as the Frontier program, which is essentially preview mode if you got a Copilot license. But they're now available. They should automatically get pinned to your new M365 Copilot app as well.
I was gonna say, I mean, I'm playing with the obviously kind of non-security related, but can be security related. Is I have been,
I mean, yeah.
I have a Copilot for M365, and I think some of what you can build as agents with a security mindset is kind of, really interesting. I think, thinking of edge cases, thinking of those, what's those pain points in your environment. I've really been, exploring, I guess, capabilities in that space, specifically with a security focused hat. One that I kind of, I guess, giving a bit of insights into what I've been tinkering in the background is in regards to like insights into vulnerabilities. Obviously, you can function and use something like Security Copilot to look at a vulnerability, but looking at what patches are coming out or what's the new patch rotation. Is there any 0 days associated to that? Obviously, the functionality of Copilot agents looks at knowledge sources that you specify, and you can obviously have actions. So, like, you can have it set on a schedule to run a specific outcome. I'm toying with the idea of having a weekly check-in on some websites, almost like an RSS feed with a bit more generative capabilities, where I want to go and, scrape a bunch of information from a bunch of legible websites and create a bit of a news article to give me an update as to what is new. Be pretty handy in regards to coming up to a podcast where I want to know what's happened for the month, because it is kind of difficult and almost a team effort to find everything that's happened for the month. But
Sounds familiar.
yeah, right. Who would have thought? But what if you had an AI agent scrape a bunch of websites in regards to what's new, where you can specifically say what's new for month, and have that pump it out as an email, and that can become a sit in the background, like agentic focus for security. So rather than you having to go and find what's new or find what's pressing or find what's broken, or even if you've got a bunch of business applications where you want to keep a look over their status, if they're up and running, if they're not, you can look at certain websites and have that functionality be able to advise you. Obviously, you can go into the deeps of, having it look at your internal data. I haven't personally started to dig into that. I kind of want to make public facing before I start really digging in. But no, I think I guess Copilot agents. It's one of those. If you have the functionality or the licensing to at least explore in that space,
Well,
obviously,
yeah, even if you don't have the license, because the chat component is available for all M365 users. So if you signed in, you can access Copilot Chat, and you will be able to create agents that are web grounded or instructional. So you could plug in a what's new URL into its knowledge source, and then that agent now becomes an expert in all of the topics that were announced that month, and that doesn't cost anything on top of it being there available for you. I think as soon as you start needing it to touch your work or other connectors or any action outside of the out of the box, then that's when you need to start paying, whether through licensing or through consumption. Um,
once again, it's one of those, like, keep an open mind. Obviously, if there's something that's pressing day to day, week to week, month to month that you're doing, obviously this is a very specific example towards, us as a podcast want to keep up to date with what's happening in the security space. Obviously, that is
yeah.
a mammoth in itself. So having just, an AI agent be able to just assist in that space, what's pressing, what's up to date, what's new, what's going GA. It really is, a couple of hours of thought and process, probably not even a couple of hours to put something together. And it's just one of those things that you don't necessarily need to stress about moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about the collaborating and pulling together resources to prepare for a podcast episode. So there are people out there already playing with something called Notebook LM, and what does Microsoft do? They create Copilot notebooks. So similar kind of concept. Create a notebook, start grabbing links, documents, ideas, throw them all together, create pages and so on. And once you've got that, you can then reason over all of that information, tell it to prepare all my materials for the episode. And then there's a little button at the bottom right that you go, I want to listen to it. It does the audio, so it generates speakers. So you kind of, at what point do you draw the line where,
Look,
you know,
there'll just be like a fourth person down here. It'll be like, hey, what's going on? We got a new. They'll just do all the talk. No, I think, yeah, there's obviously a level of, I think there's a boundary for it, and won't go into the ethics of what I believe is the ethics behind the use of AI, because that's a whole
authenticity of ethics, but yeah.
But I think, yeah, the idea is that Copilot Studio, as much as it isn't necessarily the security product, obviously you look at the security Copilot agents, you look at the Entra agents, they obviously align more to the security. But if you are, licensed for Copilot M365 or, the Copilot chat web grounding components, and you have those pressing things that you're always like Googling, or those pressing things you're always researching or wanting up-to-date information on, 100% look into it, like, because you probably will find a specific use case to you or to your team or to, that your business, that you might even just be able to, chuck something together as a proof of concept, and be able to potentially change the way your business operates within that space for good, obviously not for bad.
I mean, at the same time, there's still a whole bunch of security and governance that has to go on, but yeah, that's probably a topic for another episode.
Proof of concept. I'm not saying go prod straight away and be like,
No.
go for it.
we'll, we'll
Please,
do it live.
yeah. Watch this. No, please don't do any hold my beers. And especially if you are going to start looking at grounding your local data or your SharePoint data, or please make sure that you look at functionality like DSPM for AI before you touch that. Which obviously in itself is a kettle of fun. I was going to, I guess, start to slowly wrap this one up with, I guess, yeah, I guess what's, I guess, looking towards being an upcoming, or what would you potentially say your vision is that Microsoft will, obviously, the year itself has been quite an interesting one. There's been a real push for agents in all these AI spaces. I guess not necessarily touching on too specifically in the AI space. Actually, no, specifically in the AI space across the board. There's a lot of functionality. I know that Defender now has its own phishing agent, which allows for it to kind of look at phishing emails as a like a function. Obviously, now there's a bunch within Entra. There's now Defender for Cloud for Security Copilot. Do you guys see any potential like ideas that you think might become agents?
I would say, yeah, the phishing agent would be like really ideal. Go through the stuff and report and help the whole incident management process, right? So you asking like the agents that we can come up with in order to help the whole cybersecurity incident management process.
I mean, not necessarily just what we can come up with, but do you know of like what would so I think to that is you're absolutely right. The phishing agent itself obviously looks at that as
That's triage, though, right?
that's triage focus for phishing.
Yeah.
My 2 cents is that should just be, obviously and likely will be expanded upon for what other triage style, investigation can be done in that space where phishing is obviously one small, I wouldn't say small, but one component of an analyst's job, which could potentially then expand into, a malware focused or a a general incident investigation, whether it be associated to the MITRE framework, where it's this attack pattern equals this as a investigation outcome. Where once again it could look at a source like MITRE and say that the man in the middle often is XYZ, and this is the standard.
Adversary in the middle.
You're absolutely right. That is my bad. Hey,
Tactics like lateral movement and things like that, right? So
bingo.
if there's imagine that there's an agent that you can basically look at those stuff and report again, help the whole triage side of things. That will be really useful.
Absolutely. I think when you're looking at, Sentinel incidents, there is a tactic. The tactic often says something like, exfiltration or,
Yeah.
exfiltration be it one, is that obviously relates to something in, MITRE, for example. And then if you could have a triage bot perform an action over that specific to that tactic, where it might be able to run a bunch of standardized KQL over the top of it to say, this is us reasoning with the data that we can see. This is what we have in terms of our threat intelligence in the background. And kind of, I guess, I wouldn't necessarily do the SOC's job, or your analyst's job, but I think just being able to almost be used as a tool to learn from as well, because I think, once again, probably just my viewpoint, but this agent or these agents and these AI should only be ever used as an assistant to a job. It should not take a job. But I think even just having like a agent be able to reflect almost a peer doing a job where it does need to be quality controlled and fact checked by a security analysis.
End of the day, the execution's always by a human. It's never the AI does everything, and then we just fire and
Fine.
forget, right? There is
Go through.
human, what's it called? Human interaction. I forget the word exactly, but
Uh,
yeah,
Jeff Beckett, Microsoft in Perth, always says that it's not Copilot. Sorry, it's not pilot. It's Copilot. You are the
yeah,
pilot. You are in
yeah,
control. It should not ever be
mm,
pilot. And when it is pilot, you are likely going to have interesting outcomes. But I think
mm,
to that is that I think where I see the most value and where I would love to see, I guess, Microsoft and the community take agents is really on the emphasis of upskilling juniors and really just trying to clear the path for, um, making sure that, security incidents are dealt with effectively and efficiently, but then also used as a leverage point to be able to learn so that the analysts and I guess our upcoming in the career space have a place to
mm,
grow and learn from.
Yeah,
yeah.
sure.
I mean, if you've been following the late April announcements and all the reports and stuff. So the Work Trend Index, it's something that Microsoft likes to refer to. It's effectively it's a survey around 30 something thousand people around the world, just asking questions and getting the percentages and all that. But the main topic this year round was on the rise or the birth of the frontier firms. So, thus that term frontier being thrown around everywhere. But their idea or vision is that we don't just have a single agent, we have teams of people and agents. You have agent bosses. So, you've got agents you create and are responsible for, and they'll be used by other people. They'll work together, and that's when they bring in multi-agent administration and so on. So when we're talking about all these different agents for security, for example, if you're just using Security Copilot, it's sure it'll give you insights and stuff, but it's not going to be able to do an overall process or an end-to-end incident, right? That's where they've created all these separate agents that do specific things. That's where you get them all to hand off to each other after they've done a certain task. Like you've said, like if it processes KQL over here and then does something over there, and at the end of it, you get one last agent that does like a quality assurance to look over the entire process and just make sure it's, hey, that's accurate, that's good. Then feed it back to the SOC analyst or whoever's needing the output. That's kind of the direction we're going, and I think that kind of example, I just kind of paraphrase it. Cricket Australia had something similar where they had an AI to advise stats of the players, so, bowlers, batters, and etc. It was giving stats that were like a decimal or two, or decimal place off, or even the second decimal place off, and fans were in up in arms, pitchforks and torches on X/Twitter. So they had to assess what they were doing, and that whole idea of the multiple agents and a QA agent at the very end to make sure that the calculations are accurate before it goes live. That's the kind of thing we need to be aware of as well. So that's touching modern work, that's touching biz apps. Everything is being well, invaded by AI right now. So, I guess with security as well, that is security copilot and agents. I'm expecting a similar kind of thing. I don't know whether you create your own security agents or if Microsoft will do that for you, but it's a matter of time kind of thing. And you've got those partner agents as well, like the third party ones. So maybe they can work cooperatively with the Microsoft built ones.
I think just I guess expanding on that is I guess if we're talking long term and the use of AI within organizations, multi-tenant, multi-team, AIs working with other AIs to then have a quality control at the end. I genuinely see like the future of AI usage within businesses will be that it won't be that it will replace you. There will still be you at the end of the punt, like the tunnel. Past that, as you said, the QA, quality assurance aspect. It'll go to a person. It'll just be that you'll become essentially a manager of functions to your job role in which AI agents, and when that AI agent plays up, you need to be there to either replace it, renew it, update it, quality check it. Where you may not actually be the one to actually edit it. It might be some sort of AI engineer that all of a sudden, there's a new range of, job roles open where you are specifically, AI engineer focused and whatnot. So where you would previously do all these things manually, you would essentially have your roles and responsibilities be associated to a set of agents. And then at the end of that, you would obviously, be able to effectively do more in your day. But also, I believe it would also free you up to do, I guess, what I believe is kind of lost in a lot of the recent times with hybrid work and whatnot, is that like that people interaction. It gives you back time in your day to either have that work-life balance, which you should have. Please have work-life balance, but reintroduces that whole work-life balance where that if you walk away from the computer, nothing's going to burn down because you've got some agents to help you out. But also then gives you the time to be able to plan for your next meeting, or because if you're back to back in meetings, you never ever planned, and all that, right? So I do believe that there is a good to the end of this. I just think that as a community and as professionals in the area, we need to all align with that kind of focus too. Yeah, I've seen. Yeah.
So you may have seen it, may not have, but yeah, that's the general idea. Is everybody's got an agent. We're gonna have our own agents, and then we're gonna work together with the agents, and they'll go off and do our bidding, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. But I think phase 3 is what I'm explaining is, humans set the direction, these are the bots that we want to do X, Y, Z. And then at the end of X, Y, Z, it's a quality assured by a human, giving you more time. I think it even says, as a check-in basis, is my bots doing what they're meant to be doing? And if yes, then continue on your day. If no, fix, so they can continue going on about their day. But no, I it's an interesting, potential upcoming couple of years. But I'm interested to see how it goes.
You kind of struck something that I remembered when you mentioned other tenancies. So going back to the Entra agent ID, I believe you can share agents externally to other tenants, and the identity is from your tenant, so that when what agent's doing its thing in a different tenant, that's comes back to that same identity, but you're just managing or developing the agent in your tenant in one place. So that's one of the added benefits of that as well. B2B.
Develop.
So that meme where it's like, and then I thought about B2B business.
It's look, as I said, I think it's good because imagine deploying or managing an application, whether the application happens to be an agent, and all of a sudden you deploy it to 20 different places. You have to go and update it in 20 different places. No, thank you. Whatever happened to that whole CI/CD and all that kind of jazz, right? I think that application is essentially just going to be the agent is the new application.
Quick segue on that one. There wasn't much on Azure DevOps in build, and on the back of the call I was on this week, there's GitHub DevOps was talked about. So
look, I don't want to put the old tin hat on, but I don't see any DevOps Copilot coming around. But I do believe I now own a GitHub Copilot shirt. So hey, who knows?
I mean, what did they hit? Like, was it 10,000? It was a large number of users now using GitHub Copilot. So
it's good. I mean, as someone who's not the best at coding, I definitely am like, oh, okay, this actually really, and you get it for free if we can. Once again, it's
free, yeah,
certain amount, look, premium.
But also anything that's free it's training on your data, so just be wary of that.
Whatever I'm building is definitely going to just probably obscure the data itself.
More for the audience.
Yes, yeah. I'm not a trained developer. Please do not take any of this as app development advice. I'll stick to what I know. No, look, I'd say we are on the end of wrapping up. Is there anything else that we wanted to add in? No, brilliant. I was gonna say, yeah. Look, coming off the back of, I guess, having an in-person, this was one that we wanted to try and jump back into it. I am hopeful that we will be able to do some in-person ones again in future. Obviously, very opportunistic. The last one was hoping to obviously seize the opportunities in future where I can. But no, it was real good to catch up with you guys in person. Obviously, outside of this, we are good mates, so it is always good to catch up outside of this when we are not obviously recording, because some of the banter and conversations obviously are good quality. But no, I look forward to hopefully potting with you guys in future in person again. No, look, we'll
Yeah.
I was gonna say we'll call it there. Yeah, look, thank you again for listening into the episode. I do believe this will be going live. Well, technically, when we would normally go live is technically a public holiday for this, so we will be releasing it in the upcoming couple of days. But once again, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. We'll make sure to have the touch points of what we've discussed down in the description. This is across YouTube, Spotify, and so on and so forth. So, and if you don't know where we are, we're all over LinkedIn. So, yeah, we'll call it there. Anything else you guys know?
Yeah, I think that's a wrap up.
So
Easy.
that's all from me. Yeah.
Well, we'll speak soon, everybody. Take care, and we'll see you soon.
Awesome. See you all.
Yeah.